Hello everybody, look at behind me the tree. It's a walnut tree and you can see that the leaves have almost all fallen and the walnuts too. Yes, we are at the end of the month of October and the weather is just splendid. Of course, we took advantage of this beautiful weather to explore another part of France, and now we are in the south of the département of the Aveyron, close to the plateau du Larzac. Actually, we are following a loop, a tour, which name is le circuit des Hospitaliers des Templiers du Larzac. There are 5 steps. Some are very well known, at least in France, like the fortified village of La Couvertoirade or the village of Sainte-Eulalie du Cernon. Others are less well known because they are a little out of the beaten tracks, like the Cistercian fort of Saint-Jean d'Alcas, which is behind me. So I spoke of Cistercian and I told you that we were following a tour about the Templars and the Hospitallers. Yes, actually, here in Saint-Jean d'Alcas, this fort was not built by these knights. It was built by the Cistercian women of the monastery of Nonninck. But what we can say is that it's exactly the same kind of architecture, military architecture, than in La Couvertoirade or Sainte-Eulalie du Cernon. So it's across this military architecture. It's because of this link that the fort of Saint-Jean d'Alcas belongs to this particular tour. So why a fort here if it's not linked to the presence of the Templars and then after the presence of the Hospitallers? Actually, we have to go back to the Middle Ages, particularly the 12th century, when here was just a mere hamlet, which name was Le Mas d'Olcas. Actually, it's a very old name. The meaning is a plowable area, which shows us that this place was inhabited since much before the Middle Ages. Anyway, in 1170, the ground around with the hamlet of Mas d'Olcas is given to the nuns, the Cistercian nuns of the neighbouring priory of Nonninck. Actually, this priory is going to become a monastery in 1232, and the Abbess of Nonninck will become the landlord, the lay lord of the hamlet of Mas d'Olcas. She will dispense justice, she will levy taxes like any other lord, and things will go okay until 1321, when was signed a kind of contract. The name in French is a pareage. Actually, it was a contract obliging the abbey to share all its incomes with the King of France. It was quite common at this time, and okay, some people could think, wow, it's kind of a racket from the people of the King of France, but not really, because it was profitable for both sides. Actually, the abbess could enjoy the protection of the King of France against the neighboring lords, and the King of France could reinforce his influence in this part of his kingdom, which actually was under his direct power since not so long, actually. Anyway, no fort yet. And then we arrive in the 14th century to the 100 Years' War. In front of the lootings and the pillages, the Abbess of Nonninck gave the permission to the inhabitants to fortify their church. Actually, they over-elevated the walls of the nave in order to build a kind of defense room resting on the vault of the church, so that in case of emergency the inhabitants could find some protection there. But it was not enough. And actually in 1439, since there were more and more of these pillages, the abbess gave again the permission, this time to build a true fort in order to protect the inhabitants, but also their sheep flocks. And the fort was completed in 1445, and this is the fort of Saint-Jean-d'Alcas, as you can see it behind me, and we are now going to explore it. Speaking of civilian architecture, one thing we could say is that we are surprised by the functionality of all these buildings. So how was the plan of the fort? Let's say that all along the inside of the wall there were buildings. In front of these buildings there was a unique street, a rectangular street, and inside this rectangular street there was a block of houses. Actually at the beginning there were 14 different plots which were of equal superficie, about 50 meters, and the houses that were standing there were almost all built on the same model. If now you look at the main gate, you see that the battlement to the right, the name was La Salle de Madame, the room of the dame. Actually it was a guard room. To the left this time, this small, more recent building was a presbytery, but actually it is hiding the entrance to a spiral staircase inside this small tower that allowed to climb up to the rampart walk. So in matters of architecture, we find all the elements that are usually found in a fortification of the 15th century. Let's start by the rampart, the walls themselves, which are in quite good condition. The average thickness is about 4-5 feet, which is not that thick, but the quality of the limestone that was used is very good. This hard limestone was quarried close to the village. Only the gates were built out of another kind of stone, which is a sandstone that was quarried from another close quarry. You can see that above the gate there is a loophole which was meant either for crossbows or guns, and there is another protection which is on top of the rampart. It is a machicolation that we could better see later. Of course, the plan of the fort is a kind of rectangle. The dimensions are 60 meters by 40 meters, and at each angle there was a round tower which was equipped with loopholes and gun ports. So let's go to the north street. So this battlement, of course, is the church. We're gonna tour it soon. So here we are in the church of Saint-Jean. Actually it was included into the fortification wall. Two things to note. First, a small chapel. It is kind of protruding out of the defensive wall, and above this chapel there is another one. This chapel was completely hidden. It was forgotten. They rediscovered it in 1976 when they undertook the first works. Of course, we think that this upper chapel was meant for the abbess. Something else is that this track of the cross, I say that for the the people who are interested, it would be the same track of the cross than the one that is in the church of Rennes-le-Château. Another important building is to my right. You see the name of the house, La Salle de Justice. It is here that the abbess was welcoming all the people she had to see. According to the legend, the ground floor was a kind of jail. If you carefully watch, you're going to see a particular stone just above the window. It is the crest of Florence de Casillac. Florence de Casillac was the abbess who authorized the building of the fort. Next building is more recent. It is the presbytery, and in the bottom this kind of gap, it looks like a cul-de-sac. The name was La Basse-Cour de Madame, the lower yard of the dame. Actually, it was there that you would find a horse stable with the fodder reserves and carts and so on. So now let's turn to the west side. Something interesting is that the protruding stone, it is hollowed. A collector in French, I would say collector in English, a water collector, rainwater collector, because behind this wall there is a cistern, one of the cisterns of the fort. Actually, there were kind of gutters that were leading the water here, which was there transported to the cistern. And here we are now walking on the South Street. You can see one of the most beautiful windows of Saint-Jean, beautiful mullion window. Actually, this house was called Le Grenier de la Rente, the attic of the tax. It is here that the priest and the abbess were receiving the tithe and other royalties that were paid in kind. This house has a special name. We call it La Maison de la Manigance. I would translate it into the house of the plot, because according to the legend, it is here that during the religious wars, two Protestant lords were assassinated, supposedly upon orders of the abbess in 1573. And to the right is a place which was never built to. We call it Le Pâtu, and it's a place where people could take their animals out of the sheepfolds in order to give them some fresh air. And to my left this time, another place which was not built, one of those 14 plots, is where you would find the banal oven, which actually disappeared early at the revolution. It was already destroyed. And in the corner there is this house, a noble house, with this round tower. Actually it is just a spiral staircase. Probably it's here that the abbess had her last residence. And we are already walking on the last side of the rectangle, the east street. To the right, you would find the personal oven of the dame, le four de madame, and of course, after the oven was the kitchen of madame. So, before leaving Saint-Jean, I would like to take you to the rampart in order to see a beautiful view. And we are now in what they call la maison de l'Abbess, the residence of the abbess of the monastery of Nonenc, when she was visiting the people of Saint-Jean, our first residence. And you can see that there are all the elements of modern comfort. I speak of the 15th century, since you find all those windows which are equipped with stone cushions. You also find a kind of sink in the wall, and behind that small door there is a latrine. You can also see a beautiful fireplace which has been recently restored. And another detail is that along the wall, forget this arch, there was a kind of passageway, a rampart walk, which allowed the garrison to pass from one battlement to another very quickly. This house has another name, which is la salle de justice, the courtroom or the justice room, because the abbess of the monastery of Nonenc, as the lord of Saint-Jean, had to dispense justice. It made part of her job like any other lay lord. So now we're gonna take that small staircase in order to go to the upper defense room, right above the church. Let's take that narrow passageway. And I forgot to mention that room. Actually, we are in the bell tower, and there was only one way to reach the last level, which was a trapdoor with a wooden ladder, a wooden staircase, just like today. So now we are discovering the upper chamber, that long, large room built on the vaults of the church. This was the refuge, the place where the inhabitants could find protection in case of emergency. Again, this upper room was built around 1356. Actually, if we open that door, we can get inside this small chamber, which is a kind of protruding battlement out of the wall, the fortification wall. It's actually resting on a small chapel that is opening inside the church. And of course, from the openings that were existing here, it was easy to shoot at an enemy right and left side, parallel to the defense wall. There is no better place to complete the tour of the fort of Saint-Jean-d'Alcas than this particular place. We are now on the rampart walk, and you can see that the view around is absolutely magnificent. Particularly in the bottom of the picture, you discover the counterforts of the plateau of the Larzac, where we soon will go in order to explore another kind of fortification.